Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're about to receive the world's first international medical podcast, hosted by 3 paramedics from different countries. Live from the UK, Finland and Australia, this is Group Call.
Indeed, this is Group Call Live. Very good morning to you guys. We are available on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn and Facebook. And indeed, this is Group Call Live. Harrison Steed, Teemu Silver, Alex Hepner. Hi guys. But before I will say hello to Harrison and Teemu, I want to say hello to a very special person, Mr. Henry Grant, who's having his breakfast now. Mate, I hope you will have a smashing day. Enjoy your breakfast. Speaking of breakfasts, I know that Harrison, it's 5 o'clock there in Australia, so you are...
5 o'clock or 1700 for those on 24-hour time.
So you are far after your breakfast, but Mr. Silver, I think you just had your breakfast.
I just did. Just drinking my coffee now and done with my breakfast. Yeah.
Cool. Did you take a picture of your breakfast and post it on Instagram?
No, I never do. Really.
And I'm asking because today's topic, for those who don't know it yet, is sex medicine and social media. So where is the line in the sand for healthcare professionals using social media such as Twitter, Facebook, and so on? Teemu, why you did not take the picture of your breakfast and why did you not post it on Instagram? It's such a powerful thing. It's such a common thing to do now.
I never really got around to the whole post your meal thing. I mostly post pictures of myself, my longboard and my dog. Rarely about like stuff to do with work, like pictures of the car I'm working on or something, but not really that much work related stuff either. I just keep it really personal.
Okay, Harrison, what about you?
No, I did not. I did not picture of my meal. I don't really use social media that much unless it's for a communication purpose and sort of linking with people. The only reason I have a Instagram account is to follow several meme pages. And that's all that I use the service for. So, no, I did not post a picture of my breakfast this morning.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. I didn't picture my breakfast, but I'm going to show you to the camera now. Here you go. A lovely apple pie.
The breakfast.
That's my breakfast. Yeah. Normally it's leftover pizza because, as you may notice, here you go. I don't know if you can see it. Alex loves pizza, wine, and the music. Speaking of that, is it appropriate to say that I really like alcohol on social media? I'm a healthcare professional. I'm a paramedic. I'm a clinical education manager with one of NHS trusts. Should I say that I like alcohol, Teemu?
Yeah. Why not? Why not? I think the stuff that we do in work that relates to alcohol is mostly alcohol abuse. And I really hope that you don't like using alcohol, like the occasional glass of wine, maybe whiskey or something. I don't know what's your typical. But yeah, I think it's fine to like alcohol, even as a healthcare professional. As long as you mostly practice what you preach.
Okay, guys, but so where is this line in the sand? Where I would bridge this boundary when I will post my picture when I'm completely pissed?
Yeah, I think if you post like an Instagram story, following your night through like Oxford. On a drinking binge with your crewmates and workmates, and it ends up around 4 a.m. with you trying to get a kebab and too pissed to actually order one. then maybe that was in the line. But then again, if your social media account is private, and basically you have to approve who gets to follow you and who gets to see it, then is there really a line at all? Then a member of the public could never see that. Well, they shouldn't be able to. Yeah.
Okay, let's also put your words in context. Finland is the country where one of the tele hosts, he was hosting the tele show. He was running the show from his sauna.
Yeah, that's true. Although normally in sauna we do drink and we actually post pictures onto social media platforms. But we usually also get really drunk there. But he was actually sober. And the same is like if there's saunas in our workplaces, so on the stations. If we have free time on, we can actually go to a sauna. But then we are not allowed to drink, obviously. Not on the shift.
Harrison.
That's incredible. I wish I was at our branches over here, but recently we're not really seeing them enough to actually make any use of them. This whole line in the sand, I don't even know if you can draw a line. There's so many different interpretations of it. And like, do we look at it in terms of what's personal and what's professional, and then also what's in an official capacity? So if you're in uniform and saying these things, if you're in uniform drinking in the sauna and everyone can see that, you're obviously representing your organization. But if you're posting on your personal account, whether Instagram or whatever the service may be, but elsewhere that you've made reference to or you've been seen in your uniform or with the logo, what is that level of, am I still representing my organization? If people know that you work for a particular ambulance service or any other healthcare service for that matter, and you're seen posting pictures drinking in the sauna, do they see, oh, hey, this is Teemu having some fun? Or they say, oh, hey, this is Teemu, the paramedic who works for XYZ organization who's having fun? So you don't always have to have the logo or the uniform or any other identifying factor if there's other forms that people can relate to with that. So it's a really difficult question to answer, and I'm sure many of our listeners will have different opinions on it as well.
Okay, Teemu, do you have a specific guidelines in terms of social media in Finland?
No, we don't. We do have like a governing body for nurses, and paramedics are registered there as nurses as well. There's no actual guideline on social media use from them, as far as I know. And then I think it's up to the employer to actually dictate what you can post and what you can't post. And that applies to private accounts, if that's work-related stuff that I'm posting, to like open personal accounts, and also like work adjacent accounts, like accounts where I would mostly and mainly post work-related stuff. So that applies to all of them. Obviously, I can post a bit more if it's a private account, but never anything that's relating to patients and like breaking confidentiality or giving out too much detail on like our ambulances or our like tactics or like the maybe like the drugs we carry and stuff like that. And if it's work adjacent, meaning like really public and actually people follow it to actually know about my stuff and my work, then it's a bit more tighter actually that what I can post, because it has to be in like a good spirit. Mm-hmm. It has to like give out a positive vibe from my employer, not to like, you know, like call them out or like talk bad about them.
Okay, but you said a good spirit. Who says that the thing that you posted is in a good spirit? Who defines, or what defines this positive vibe? Because for one, let's face it, for one person, the positive vibe is a paramedic holding or healthcare professional holding a drink, like a nutrition drink or a glass of milk, and for other person, a positive vibe is a paramedic having fun in sauna with a bottle of vodka.
Yeah, I think if it's on my private or personal account, then vodka, if I'm not in uniform, is basically always fine. No employer is gonna say that's bad, unless the text on the post says something like basically like if you, my employer, I'm just going to be drinking here or something like that. If I'm trying to call them out, then it's not okay. Specifically, if it's work adjacent and I'm in uniform, or the account is built around my identity as a paramedic working with this and that company, then I would just steer clear from the alcohol stuff. But at the end of the day, it's really up to the employer, or like the people watching the post. So if somebody would report me to my employer, and the employer would actually agree with the person reporting my post or whatever to them that, no, this is not okay, then they would probably take it to court, and the court would rule on it and decide if I did something wrong. Probably they would actually contact me first, and we could like settle it between us. But then it could go to court if I disagreed with it fully. It's really like a line in the water. It's really hard to define.
Yeah. So thank you, Teemu. In the UK, there is a HCPC, so Health and Care Professions Council, which basically prepared guidelines for healthcare professionals, including paramedics. And what you have here is first top tips, and one of those top tips for healthcare professional is maintain appropriate professional boundaries if you communicate with colleagues, service users, or carers, and use professional judgment about whenever something you share falls below the professional standards expected of you. And we are getting to this point where we know that healthcare professionals, our profession is something that, or let me rephrase that we are people that people are expected more from us than other professions. Because I had a quite interesting conversation last night with one of my friends. What is the difference between a paramedic and an engineer? And they said, "Oh, I would not trust a paramedic who's have a really shitty Facebook wall with I don't know, swear words and really bad attitude." Would you trust an engineer or I don't know, a car mechanic? Harrison?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I kind of think it speaks a lot to that inherent trust in healthcare providers, that sort of like it or not, we're often sort of put on this pedestal of, you know, trustworthy organisations. But also that trust is very fragile. It doesn't take a lot for something to be done in the public eye that can erode that. But you bring up a good point where there's not a lot of other organisations that are like that. Like, yeah, if your mechanic's posting pictures of him getting pissed on the weekend, are you not going to take your car there? I mean, as long as he's not going to work, I'm sure he's going to change your oil just fine if he's not drunk at work. So, but why is that sort of same applied to us? So, yeah, it's a really, as I said before, it's a really difficult question to answer, and why that trust is different for healthcare. I think because people take their health very, very personally. It's a very sort of personal thing. It's their well-being, and it takes a lot of trust to talk to someone about it. And when we think about when we're going to patients, and they're often having a very, very bad day, and they have to tell us stuff that they probably, wouldn't tell most other people at a time when they're in some great need, there is a lot of that trust. And if they see us as, someone that gets pissed on the weekend, or, delves into illicit drugs or whatever have you, and they go, "Oh, do I really trust this person with this information and with my story?" If they're happy to post pictures of themselves doing X, Y, Z, what's to say they're not going to post my story or tell my story? So perhaps that has something to do with it as well.
Okay, let me stop you here. You made a very fair point, but I still will be a devil's advocate here, because when you are coming to the mechanic, to the car mechanic, and he swears a lot, you still give your car, and your car is very personal. Your life depends from this car sometimes. When you have really shitty brakes, right? So, and you have no objections to leave the car to the mechanic who is a bit abusive, but with healthcare professional, it's a bit different. But let me now bring an example. Dr. House, he was an ophead. Let's face it. This character, he was an ophead, and people still wanted to be treated by him. So why, Teemu?
In the world that the character is living in, he's just so good that people tolerate a certain amount of dickheadedness from him. And I actually think that we can see that in our line of work in the real world as well, because I've known plenty of high-ranking doctors that can actually be really shitty, especially towards paramedics or nurses and even patients, and people still tolerate that amount of shit from them. To be fair, that's not on social media. That's personal.
Did you just say shit?
Oh yeah, I do. In Finland, it's not that bad. Yeah, we have very a short list of words that we are not allowed to say, especially on the job, and it's a lot shorter than English-speaking countries. That's for sure.
Harrison.
In terms of Dr. House and why his I think as Teemu said, there's this level of, and whether this is right or wrong, I can't really say, but there's this level of competency and ability in your profession that sometimes you rise above some of some of those other social etiquette criteria that applies to the rest of us. So, and do I think that's right? Probably not. I think everyone should be held to the same account. But at the same time, I don't really have the answers to negate it. And, like Teemu, I've known several doctors to not be the most personable people, but are also still people that I respect because I see the way they work and I know they're very effective at their job. And I mean, the same can surely be said for many paramedics out there as well. They might not be the most personable people, whether that's posted on social media or not, not too sure. But they're also very, very good at their job, and there's an inherent respect that sort of comes with that as well. So sometimes people sweep we'll use that term, dickheadedness under the rug, because they're good at their job. So, yeah, do I agree with that? Not really. As I said, I think everyone should be held to the same account, but
okay, so
I don't think it's the way society rolls.
Let me ask you a different question. Would you agree to be treated by a really abusive paramedic, but you know that they are really good in their job?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, the way that I perceive it is I would rather someone knew what they were doing and weren't nice about it, rather than going, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing, but hey, I'm a really good at having a chat and really nice to you. I think when push comes to shove, that's what's most important. It's competency in the job. I might not enjoy the experience and I might complain about it later, but I'll be alive, and that's kind of what matters. So yeah, I would absolutely be treated by that person.
Teemu?
Would it be my preference? Probably not.
Thank you.
I'm with Harrison on this. Definitely competency over manners. But then again, we are kind of related to maybe a waiter in a restaurant, or like a barista in a coffee shop.
Okay.
So if I walked into a coffee shop and the first thing the barista says to me, like, what the fuck do you want? I would probably just walk out. So then again, why? Obviously, I can't walk out if my leg is broken and the paramedic comes and asks that same question to me. But would I tell them to get out?
I'm sorry.
Well, probably not.
It's. Did you just say? Did you just say an F word? Are you drunk?
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's okay in Finland.
Yeah.
That's all above board. That's good. I reckon that's a really good analogy in terms of we're the first people that often patients come in contact with in terms of entering the healthcare system as a whole. And like you said, if you've got a broken leg, yeah, they can obviously refuse our treatment, but they're probably less likely to. But are they then also less likely to call an ambulance later down the track when they need it because they've had that bad experience? And we do see this happen quite a bit. We see people reluctant to call ambulances because they've had a bad experience either with wait times or with feeling they're not getting treated properly or their pain wasn't under control or whatever have you. And the same can apply to how they were treated, personally and emotionally and how they were spoken to. And I think that does, bringing in this conversation we're having about social media, the same does apply. If they've had this bad experience, if they've been, and this whole offense cancel culture, we're not going to get into that. That's a topic for another day. But if they have taken offense to something that they've seen online from a paramedic, perhaps they're less likely to call us when they actually really, really might need us.
Yeah, that's a very fair point.
Yeah, and also the opposite applies as well, I think, because I've been publicly viewed on my company's Instagram accounts posting my day kind of stories, and I've actually had people recognize me from that, and I would say I got better treatment from them when I got to the scene, and they were probably slightly more happy to see a familiar face, even though I wasn't familiar. They had only seen me on Instagram, but still. So I think if you're posting good stuff, you're positive, you're giving out this professional vibe all throughout your posting on social media, then also people will receive you better.
Yeah, and that brings us nicely to the next point of this conversation. So celebrities, paramedics or healthcare celebrities, as Teemu said, you just said that you got a better treatment, as if you like. Again, I'm definitely far from being a celebrity, but I remember when a few months ago I attended an RTC whilst being off duty, and actually one of off-duty paramedics from completely different area was helping me out on this at scene. And the first thing he said to me, "Are you this guy from YouTube?" Yes, I am. Celebrities in our countries, we have a lot of celebrities, in a good way. I'm not trying to diss them now, in this country, in the UK, and I actually tried to contact a few of them just to get their point of view on this show, but unfortunately I did not get any reply, despite quite long time. Maybe they were too busy. Teemu, do you have celebrities, paramedic celebrities in Finland?
Yeah, we have a few that are really active. I actually contacted was able to get one of them to share his points of view. I got a picture from him to show everybody.
This one? Yep. That's the mm-hmm.
He works in central Finland, and he is basically like a team leader at his workplace. So he posts a lot of educational stuff for the regular people as well. I think he has a lot of professional followers like other paramedics, mm-hmm. but I think also a lot of laymen follow him. And basically in that picture he was warning about the fallen leaves, that they are quite slippery and you should be watching out for them, and also making a comparison between the ambulance colors and the fall colors in Finland, which was really nice. I really liked the picture. And he brought up a really important point, mm-hmm. In my opinion, about the work adjacent social media accounts like his. So he basically mostly or almost completely posts about his work. Mm-hmm. So then he said to me that he really thinks that because of that, he needs to be really professional in everything he does, convey a really positive vibe and a professional aura with everything he does, just because he is so public, and he's representing a larger population of paramedics as well, not just himself. And I do agree with that a lot. We also recently have had a couple of instances of problems with paramedics on social media that got a bit viral and were discussed quite largely. We Ira also pointed out, we have this TikTok paramedic celebrity, and they have posted some not so good material, at least in my opinion. I don't want to call them out by name, but they basically had a TikTok video of trying to choose the music in the ambulance when conveying a patient to a hospice, and they had all these songs that are really inappropriate for that type of situation, like Staying Alive and whatnot. And that was actually really bad. It was maybe them or somebody else who was discussing why don't we wear elf caps on Christmas when we're working.
Okay.
And I discussed with Ira last night, we both agreed that it's probably not a good idea to go to a resuscitation job or a CPR case or a trauma case or a sickly child wearing an elf cap. It's it just does not work. Even though it might be fun on the station, it's not fun on the job. And even if it's Christmas, it's still somebody's worst day. And I think even suggesting that is not really something that we want to do. A few couple of the other instances were paramedic students wearing their uniform or at least the pants with the reflectors and doing pole dancing and basically making it into a cool thing to have the uniform, which I think is vastly underestimating the value of our profession, trying to show that it's cool to be in uniform. Well, it is, but you also have to earn it. You have to be professional, and I would very much shun people who are not professional when they're wearing it and don't really. Well, if I got the chance to decide, I wouldn't welcome them to the profession if they are giving off a bad air. And then we had a challenge with eye gels and paramedics sticking them down their throats without any sedation and stuff like that.
Oh God!
And as you can imagine, that got a bit sexual. Some people did it in a less sexual way, and some people did it overtly sexual. And then it's a really difficult conversation as well, because at the same time, you don't want to get into the cancel culture that Harrison briefly mentioned and say, oh, this is not okay. But then also it's not really okay as well. And most of the people who did it didn't actually explain what they were doing and what the idea was. So then you can imagine people would not really understand. It does look a bit like a sex toy or something. Yeah.
Okay, before we will jump to Australia, I will ask you about the second picture you sent me, the girl.
Yeah. So another interesting phenomenon, I should say, in Finland in the recent years has been studygram accounts. So Instagram accounts that basically focus on studying, and it's been really common among paramedics, but more so even with medical students. This picture is from a...
Okay, so medical studygram.
So she started this while she was applying to medical school and posted about that whole process, which I'm also going through right now. So it's really relatable and really fun to follow, and it's kind of have this back and forth conversation with another person who's applying. And then now she actually got in. Congrats to her. And now she's starting to post study stuff from med school, actually. So I think it's really cool for people, other professionals, maybe like older professionals who are not so in tune with the whole studying process anymore, but also like everybody else as well, to see what we go through when we're studying and how hard we have to work, how hard she has to work to get to where she's going to go. And that's really cool.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Steed. Over to you.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before briefly, I'm not the biggest user of social media and TikTok and Instagram, so I'm not too familiar with the users over here. There are a couple out there. There's some doctors out there that have quite interesting pages. There's one by the name of Dr. Dan Kronk, who was a doctor in the special forces in the army. Also runs or I think is the medical lead for a company called TACMed Australia, who work with pre-hospital agencies, but also other like law enforcement agencies on medical education. And as Teemu sort of mentioned, that sort of the educational side of what he puts out is quite good. But yeah, in terms of other ones that I'm aware of, there's not too many. There's one that I came across, an Australian page, and it kind of reminded me of something I want to talk about that we haven't yet, which is memes in social media.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite things to do. And this is an aspect of social media, and just as what we're doing now, a podcast can be seen as social media, where we're not wearing our uniforms right now, but we can reasonably be identified with the organisations that we work for.
And Teemu said the F word.
Yeah, I know, it's dangerous, isn't it? So yeah, even though we don't have that direct like official recognition, there's still like a professional recognition to what we do and roughly to who we work for, despite us not being direct about it. But yeah, these meme pages, I mean, I won't sort of speak for both of you, but I find the humour to be a very good coping mechanism with our job, and the people that I have spoken to about it believe the same thing, whether that's what they do or they just tell stories and tell jokes. It is a coping mechanism, and it's not something that the general public will always understand. So there might be some things that paramedics find funny or amusing, such as the eye gels, perhaps, with them not being done in a sexual way. It might be amusing to see that, but the general public seeing that wouldn't really understand. Now, the dark side of the humour with what sort of music to play on the way to hospice, that's obviously a bit sort of further, but there's a lot of things that a lot of pages out there that are run by paramedics and other EMS personnel that put up these memes that are made by people in the profession. But to my knowledge, a lot of those people that run those pages try to keep their identities very, very secret, and there's many of them that run podcasts, and some of those, all the ones that I know of, aren't on video because they don't want their faces shown, and some of them even have voice modulators, so they don't have their voices identified. So really? A lot of these people, yeah, maybe something we can look into every time Teemu brings up being an eye gel. So there's these people that are explicitly trying to avoid being identified. Is it because they know that what they're doing might not be seen as to be right by the general public? I think that's probably correct. Although I look at it and I laugh and I think, oh yeah, that's really good. It helps me laugh at some of the either more mundane or more serious parts of the job. Joe Blogs, just sifting through Instagram, seeing some of those things, might either not understand it or kind of be offended by it. So, and then on the flip side, if one of us was to share some of that, where we've got our name or our organisation on our personal account, and we like one of those or share one of those, then we're associating ourselves with that as well. So, so I kind of keep that a little bit separate from my personal accounts on social media, but it's another thing as well. It's another form in which people can sort of come come unstuck. What we find funny isn't always seen as funny by the general public.
Yeah, and that brings me to the final point of this conversation, gents. Do you remember the old saying, if someone would hear what we are talking about in the crew room, they would actually be really angry at us? And what I think, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong, we healthcare professionals, especially paramedics, we lost this pressure valve, which always was a crew room, because you could always come back to the crew room after the job, sit with your colleagues, have a joke, even sometimes inappropriate, put an Nigel in, Teemu.
Forever associated with that now.
Drop some F-bombs.
Yeah, drops F-bombs, exactly. And now, and I don't know how it is in Finland or Australia, but here in Europe, in the United Kingdom, and also in Poland, I still talk to my colleagues back home. We lost it. We don't have crew rooms anymore, not because someone took it away from us. It's just so busy, but that we don't get back to crew rooms to vent after the job. Teemu?
Yeah, I agree. We are quite lucky in Finland that we are not so busy, at least where I work, that we still get plenty of time in the crew room, but it is substantially less than what we used to have. And yeah, I think it's really a good pressure valve if it's used correctly, like to vent that on social media. I did follow some meme pages that were like good pressure valves for me and like the people who did them, but I've steered clear from the ones that post stuff that could be seen as hurtful, and I much rather prefer ones that basically are making fun of the profession, like in a meme funny way,
rather than,
because some of them were quite hurtful, and I just couldn't associate with that anymore. But yeah, crew rooms, I do miss them.
Harrison?
Yeah, so again, we've still got ours. Our workload's definitely quite busy here at the moment, so we're rarely seeing them. But we're still talking about these things with the person that we're working with, and having that joke around. And obviously, generally speaking, in a de-identified way as well. I agree with Teemu in terms of laughing at ourselves and laughing at the profession and just some of the silly things, generally speaking, that we have to go to or be encountered with. I think that's fairly appropriate. I think most people would understand that. Laughing directly at someone's misfortune, laughing directly at a particular, definitely a particular patient, if they're somewhat identified, is obviously off the table, absolutely. So, it definitely still needs to be an output. I wouldn't share these things on my personal sort of Facebook account, because the vast majority of the people over my Facebook, my friends, aren't paramedics. They work in other agencies. So even though it's funny to, as I mentioned before, it's funny to me, it's funny to colleagues, it's not sort of funny to them. So I do it in other forms of social media and messaging and things like that. But at the end of the day, even just sort of talking about those sort of things here, I've identified myself as a paramedic. I've associated roughly where I work. These sorts of conversations that we're having right now are still coming under, I assume, for both your organisations as well, but they still come under the code of conduct that we have to work under as well. So,
cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having this conversation today. Now, question to you guys, to our viewers: what is the line in the sand for you? Where is this thin line? Is the F bomb good, or what about C bomb? What about posting weird pictures? What about trying to impress others with, I don't know, bottle of alcohol or cigarette, or as one of the guys said, documenting the night out on social media. Please let us know in the comments below to this video. Please remember, you can, speaking of social media, you can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitch. We are so up to date with that. We have a Twitch account. Harrison Steed, Teemu Silver, and Alex Hepner. Thank you guys. This was Group Call.
Thank you.